All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And welcome all to another week as America comes apart. It's great to be with you. We're sliding right into the holidays. You know, after Halloween, what is it, Kim? You go right for Thanksgiving? Is that what you do? Or you go right for Christmas?
It's Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Yeah, all right. I'm looking forward to Thanksgiving. I put all of the MAGA people on one side of the table, and I put all the degenerate liberals on the other side of the table. And we just get it on. You know what I mean? It's a great, it's a really great time.
Kim, how are you?
You give thanks for the great conversation.
I don't know where I put Tony. I don't know what side. We don't really ask about political loyalties. I know he does a great job, and I love having him on the show, and Tony is here.
Thanks, Tony.
Yes. So today I've got a Pulitzer Prize winner, Michael Hiltzik, joining us in, when does Michael join? I think an hour or two. Yes. And I've got a guy who should win all kinds of accolades and prizes. That is the brilliant political analyst from iHeart Media, our former colleague at KGO. Yes, I'm talking about Gary Dietrich, who joins us bottom of this hour. And I've just received news that I guess the SNAP benefits will be distributed from the emergency fund. That's what Kim has told me. Kim, who watches such things, breaking developments. Yep. Isn't that right, Kim?
That is correct.
All right. And beyond that, I also got news, and we'll follow up on that, obviously, but I just wanted to kind of quickly mention it. I wanted to also note that Martha Quinn has been inducted, I guess is the word, into the broadcasting, it's the Radio Hall of Fame. It's not, all right, okay.
This really bothers you, huh?
Well, because she's a TV personality. As a radio guy, started in radio, I went into TV, I would better put her as in the Broadcasting Hall of Fame. I love Martha Quinn. Yeah. She was MTV. But, you know, she was there, one of the first 5 MTV VJs. Do you remember?
I do. I remember Martha Quinn.
Yeah. 1981, MTV went on the air.
But after she did her whole MTV VJ thing, then she did this syndicated weekend radio show thing.
Yeah, but nobody knew about that.
I know, but she did it for a lot longer than she was a VJ, I think, even though she's more well-known for her MTV stint.
Her cultural relevance was as a VJ. I mean, you want to put Shadow Stevens into the Radio Hall of Fame? He deserves to be in the Radio Hall of Fame. I mean, he created branding and was a brilliant radio personality. He changed the face of Los Angeles radio. And he had an enduring imprint on radio through the decades. And by the way, it is Shadow Stevens' birthday today.
Yeah, happy
birthday. And he is the voice of this show. But anyway, Shadow is a clear Radio Hall of Fame, Broadcast Hall of Fame inductee, right? I mean, he's a first ballot winner.
Yeah.
Martha Quinn, Radio Hall of Fame. I'm sorry. I get her relevance culturally, but it's from MTV. And I know everyone is saying, why do you care, Mark? And why are you wasting our time with this? And that's a reasonable thing to say. I really understand. Oftentimes when I'm halfway through something, I go to myself, I say it. Why are you talking about this? I will tell you that Martha Quinn and Mark Thompson have history.
Really?
Yes.
Did you date her?
No, it's not romantic history, Kim. Everything with you has to be about sex or romance. It's not about that. Yeah.
Kim, how are you?
You know.
It is about the fact that I was program director on the college radio station, and I gave her a radio show.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And do you think when she was inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame, do you think Martha Quinn, deserving of, as I said, some kind of recognition for cultural relevance and all the rest, but do you think my name was mentioned? Do you?
No,
do you think she even
think so.
mentioned the primordial ooze of her career started with my radio station?
Why are you yelling?
That she got an air shift on because of my generosity.
Why are you yelling?
I saw in her, because of my terrific broadcast acumen, I saw a star.
Why are you yelling?
We'll
And
ding you
so-
for acumen. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All I'm trying to say is congratulations. It's a long way of saying.
As Jim Shields says, Martha owes everything to Mark.
She does. Thank you. Jim Shields gets it. Jim Shields gets it. All right, that's the story on Martha Quinn. Now,
The Mark Thompson Show.
look at that cute Martha Quinn picture. I love it, Tony. That is Tony is just money. Gosh, you are good.
Thanks, Tony.
Really, really good. Now I will quickly pivot to a much more exciting celebration. Our President Donald Trump does nothing better than throwing lavish parties for those who are insiders, either because of their political loyalty or because they've paid their way in, which is really the very best way to get into one of his lavish events. And so this is Halloween weekend, and my Lord and Savior, Donald Trump, does what most presidents do as the government remains closed for a month, as air traffic control and other critical areas of American life are affected with these closures, as SNAP benefits used by 42 million Americans languish because of this government shutdown that has led to a lack of funding. He holds a great Gatsby-esque Halloween party.
Nice.
Lavishness.
Yeah.
Abundance. I mean, it was really special. And there, the smoky party scene featured guests dressed up as noted here in flapper costumes. Yeah, they are all. It was the Roaring '20s.
It's in a Roaring '20s-esque facility there at Mar-a-Lago, dripping with gold and opulence. It feels so tone deaf. And Marie Antoinette, as they're in their castle with their, having their fancy cake, and the people are outside with their food stamps about to expire. It's super gross.
It is not for everybody, Kim, is what I'm getting from you.
Yeah.
It's not.
Kim, how are you?
It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, the Gilded Age, where very few had very much and many had nothing. That is what we're sliding into with the supercharged high-end participants in the American economy. I'm talking about billionaires and numbers we've never seen before. I mean, but even just the percentage of those who are the wealthiest, we've never seen the kind of gulf we have now. And at the same time, more and more Americans are finding that life in America is unaffordable because of health care, because of prices for everything from housing to food. So all of these things are happening, and you're right. This has been a slide that preceded Donald Trump, and he's only accelerated the slide and accelerated these things I've mentioned because of his foundering economic policies, his impulsive decisions on tariffs and on trade wars, to go after blue states in one way or another, to pull funding on any number of things and any number of areas in which there has been a robust government funding pipeline. I'm talking about scientific research, that kind of thing. These things have real world effects. So it's against that backdrop, though, that you can always have a party and an open bar.
It's so silly because you would think that if you were really doing this, and there's a report that the top 10 US billionaires' collective wealth grew 698 billion in the last year alone. So the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, and you would think that you would want to do that, I don't know, quietly instead of calling attention to it by saying America needs a ballroom and throwing a great Gatsby party on Halloween. It's like, I'm doing this, and also, America, I don't care if you see it or not.
Yeah, I think it's the last part that's so amazing to me. There's just no shame here whatsoever. Right. Yeah, there's absolutely no shame. So that is the world. It's the world of let's dance and sing and live in a gilded environment, from the Mar-a-Lago party to the ballroom that's being constructed. Although, as I've told you before, I think it's more than just a ballroom. You don't build a ballroom for $200 million that then becomes 250, then 300, then 350 million. There's something else going on besides the ballroom. It is a grift. It is also, I suspect, there are other aspects of this construction that we don't know about and maybe won't know about. But it was only part of his weekend, that Halloween party. He really celebrated the full month of the government shutdown with a golf trip to Florida that costs American taxpayers $3.4 million, everybody. That's right. The first month, why not stick the landing? Blame the Democrats and hop on Air Force One, go to Florida, and the taxpayer $3.4 million funded golf trip brings his total for taxpayer monies spent on his very well-developed hobby of playing golf. That price tag is now $60.7 million. Yes. It's his 13th trip to Mar-a-Lago. And when he was asked about the shutdown over the weekend, which has furloughed nearly 700,000 federal workers and is forcing another 700,000 to continue to work without pay, Donald Trump did what? Who's to blame? Democrats, of course. Yeah. It's their fault. Everything is their fault. That is a quote. Then he posted a bunch of renovation pictures from the Lincoln bathroom, which has now been redone in ornate marble and gold, just in time for the Saudi visitors who are going to be coming.
Saudi Arabia pays cash.
Yes. The refurbished Lincoln bathroom in the White House, highly polished statutory marble, he wrote. Yeah. What is statutory marble, Kim? Do you know what that is?
Same type of marble they use for statues?
I think that's exactly right. It's statue eligible marble.
Of the highest quality, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
And, of course, it goes well with the paved rose garden, which is now this patio.
Yeah.
And if you look away, you won't see the 123-year-old East Wing completely torn down. And you can enjoy a fall day there at the White House without having to, take in the messiness of the, it's pardon our dust. We're, we're stepping up. By the way, in his first 9 months in office, Donald Trump has played golf at his own resorts in Florida, New Jersey, and Scotland. Anybody? How many times in his first 9 months has Donald Trump played golf at his own resorts, Florida, New Jersey, and Scotland? How many times? I will take guesses in the chat. And if you are watching in delay, as most are, you can simply leave your guess, and I will tell you in seconds the right answer. But I'm curious what your guess is. I mean, he's been in office 9 months. That's 286 days, okay? Of the 286 days, how many days on the golf course?
Oh, how many days on the golf course?
Yeah.
Out of 286?
Yeah.
40.
40 is a good guess. 40 is a very good guess, and it would be, that's a lot, right? The actual retail price, 77 times.
What?
Yeah, 77 times.
Oh.
That means he will have played golf 27% of the time he's been in office. A little over 25%, 27%.
No, he has to let off steam, Mark, okay? I don't know why you're so harping on that.
Oh, I'm not. I'm excited. In fact, I wish he would do more golfing and less deporting.
Right.
He had a golf vacation in Scotland, cost taxpayers about $10 million. That's when he had the White House promote his opening of a new course at his resort in Aberdeen. And look for more, because during his first term, he played golf during his first term 293 days of the 4 years.
On the other hand, I mean, that's, how he gets his exercise. So,
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I have no issue with it. Go ahead. Live it up. I just wish that were all he was doing. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
There is other controversy. As you know, Donald Trump sat down with 60 Minutes, and it was an edited interview. The interview itself lasted 90 minutes, and I thought she was okay. Is that Norah O'Donnell?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to play a couple of clips for you just to get a sense for it. I think the reflections on his immigration policy and the ICE brutality, I thought that was telling. And, well, in a way, he was playing the hits, with they empty their insane asylums, they enter their prisons, they send them here, that kind of thing. But in another sense, that's what I mean. I mean, it kind of defaults back to that, but we've seen it. We know that's not true. We know they're going to car washes. We know they're going to court-appointed immigration hearings and arresting people who are really following the letter of the law. I mean, if you read the actual, which we were doing for a while, these sort of individual cases and case profiles of those involved in this, it's pretty disturbing. These people who are really pursuing the most reasonable refuge possible, given what they're fleeing: political violence, domestic violence. Now, you can argue that we should change the nature of asylum to make it more restrictive, but under the current asylum laws, these people who are here, many of whom have been swept up in these raids, and many more of whom will be swept up in these raids that are going to become even more aggressive and even more wanton, they're here legally. They're here by the letter of the law. They've come here legally. So, as to the shutdown, no surprise, he blames the Democrats.
Now approaching.
Yeah, I thought that was telling in another way. He is president. He is able to do a lot more than probably is constitutionally mandated for him to do. I'm talking about the tariffs that will be litigated and is going to the Supreme Court. So he's able to impose these witheringly high tariffs, force countries internationally to come to him and make deals. He was able to strong-arm enough Arab nations and offer them transactional incentives to get that ceasefire proposal inked. That released hostages. It got some humanitarian relief in. It was able to take this Gaza situation to another place. Maybe it's still ugly. In fact, I think it still is, and there are other aspects to that are layered over it, that for another time. But my point in this context is that he had the strong-arm tactics, the bullying tactics, to impose his will on these Arab nations, not the least of which was Qatar, and the Israelis, Benjamin Netanyahu, to force that moment for all the wrong reasons, I'm sure, but nonetheless to force the moment. Now, back to this country in domestic politics. He's cowed an entire party. No one dare go against him. He's pushed through that bill stuffed with crap and gifts to the highest earning individuals in America, another tax cut, and the ending of all of these science programs, the ending of government subsidies for so many academic institutions. He's taken on law firms. He's forced them to their knees. He's forced media institutions to their knees. He's referenced, even in the interview last night, that CBS paid him a huge payout because of the Kamala Harris edit.
That was an interesting moment, wasn't it?
And so this is not a guy who is afraid of leaning in. He's got a Justice Department now that pretty much almost exclusively just goes after his enemies. The rest of the Justice Department is just, I don't know, I guess we got to find stuff that we have to work on this stuff the president wants us to attack all of these people. We're looking for new people to attack. Any dissenters, any people who've expressed discontent with him. So he's able to do all of these things I just mentioned. But man, he can't do anything on this government shutdown. He just is letting them vote. Go, they're voting, and that, what can we do? Democrats are standing in the way. They're voting. That's it. So meantime, all the funds are jammed up. We told you just as we were coming on the air, the SNAP emergency fund will be employed to at least get some of those SNAP benefits out. Mm-hmm. But the idea that there could be for example, the House getting back together, that any of the business of government go on, there could be a separate vote and approval in the same way that they jackhammered money out to pay some service members. They could jackhammer money out to pay air traffic controllers. That would actually be in their interest. I mentioned it to you before. I think the fact that the air traffic controllers are affected by this and the travel has been so very hampered by this, much bigger deal to Americans than the fact that the servicemen aren't being paid. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be weighing in the same kind of import, but what I am trying to say is in terms of noticing it in everyday life, the ATF stuff is much, ATC stuff is much bigger. Anyway, my point is simply Donald Trump decided not to flex. He just I can't do anything. Just can't do anything. Because it serves him well to have the government closed. They can get away with so much more. And if you talk to many, and we've had them on this show, they will tell you, those who are government watchers, and we'll ask Gary Dietrich in a few minutes, government may not reopen through Thanksgiving, through Christmas, and you're looking at a real problem. And it's only going to get worse because even the reserve funds for SNAP will run out, and that's just one of the ways in which you'll notice this. He also talked about the Insurrection Act and employing the Insurrection Act. And the more conversant he becomes with the Insurrection Act, the more you realize, he's loaded that weapon and it's ready. Take a look. Yeah. I want credit for having not sent the military into American cities in a bigger way. Yeah.
Does that mean he needs a few dings? We get to give him something for it? That's crazy.
Where is media keeps bringing up the Insurrection Act to him like it's a normal, rational choice. Media is to blame. Yeah, it's the media. Of course,
yeah,
the media is to blame.
Media.
Yeah, again, he wouldn't think about this stuff and really wouldn't even talk about it or think about it at all if it weren't for the media.
He also said there that the former presidents routinely use the Insurrection Act. I think routinely is the wrong word there.
Yeah, routinely is doing a lot of work that really no other word is done.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Insurrection Act. Yeah.
Can I just say one more thing about this 60 Minutes interview? That one of the stories that I don't think is getting a huge amount of play is that they edited this interview. He had a meltdown when he was asked about this guy that he pardoned, the guy from Binance, Peng Zhao. You had talked about this previously on the show. And so Nora O'Donnell asks him about this pardon. And he says, this is a quote, "Okay, are you ready? I don't know who he is. I know he got a 4-month sentence or something like that, and I heard it was a Biden witch hunt. So I pardoned him." And
Yeah.
they went back and forth on this, and CBS ended up cutting a big part about corruption and this pardoning out of the show.
It is wild. They did address it, but it became like almost a drive-by as opposed to actually getting into it, as Kim says. And there is a full transcript online. And maybe after Gary, or maybe even during Gary, I'll read a bit from it. But what you find in the transcript is sort of much more in the way of deflection, much more in the way of sort of BSing his way around it. I didn't know anything about it. I know he got a 4-month sentence or something like that. These are his words. And I heard it was a Biden witch hunt. And what I want to do is see crypto, because if we don't do it, it's going to go to China. It's going to go to, this is no different to me than AI. My sons are involved in crypto much more than I know very little about it other than one thing. It's a huge industry. And if we're not going to be the head of it, China, Japan, or someplace else is. So I am behind it 100%. This man was, in my opinion, from what I'm told, this is, a 4-month sentence. And then he went on, but this man was treated really badly by the Biden administration, and he was given a jail term. He's highly respected. He's a very successful guy. They sent him to jail, and they really set him up. That's my opinion. I was told about it. I said, it may look bad if I do it. I have to do the right thing. I don't know the man at all. I don't think I ever met him. Maybe I did, or, somebody shook my hand or something. But I don't think I ever met him. I have no idea who he is. I was told that he was a victim, just like I was, and just like many other people, of a vicious, horrible group of people in the Biden administration. She says the government had accused him of significant harm to the U.S. national security. Trump says that's the Biden government. She says, Norah O'Donnell, okay, allowing U.S. terrorist groups to, essentially move millions of dollars around. He pled guilty to anti-money laundering laws. That was in 2023. Then in 2025, his crypto exchange, Binance, helped facilitate a $2 billion purchase of World Liberty Financial stablecoin. And then you pardon CZ. How do you address the appearance of pay for play? Let me just step out of this for a second, then I'll get to Gary. Mm-hmm. The only thing I felt she failed on, and I hate to say it, is you have to make it clear, World Liberty Financial's stablecoin, that's Trump. Your crypto platform, your stablecoin, it's yours, Trump, not the America's, it's you, Donald Trump. So then when you say, how do you address the appearance of pay for play? It makes more sense. As she was speaking, I thought, people who are kind of just watching, this may not hit them between the eyes the way it would. Binance helped facilitate a $2 billion purchase of World Liberty Financial stablecoin, your stablecoin, Mr. President, you, Donald Trump. And then you pardoned this guy, CZ. How do you address the appearance of pay for play? He said, well, here's the thing. I know nothing about it because I'm too busy doing the other. But he got a pardon, she said. He said, I can only tell you that. And she said, he got a pardon. Norah, I can only tell you this. My sons are into it. I'm glad they are because it's probably a great industry. Crypto, I think it's good. They're running a business. They're not in government, and they're good. My one son is a #1 bestseller now. My wife just had a #1 bestseller. I'm proud of them for doing that. I'm focused on this. I know nothing about the guy other than that he was a victim of weaponization by the government. When you say the government, you're talking about the Biden government. It's a corrupt government. Biden was the most corrupt president, and he will be the worst president we've ever had. I only care about one thing. Will crypto be #1 in crypto? Crypto has turned out, and that in that sense, I've been right. Crypto has turned out, and in that sense, I've been right. I'm just saying that's what he said. Crypto's turned out to be a massive industry, if you want to call it that, and I'm very proud to say that we are far and away ahead of China and everybody else. Now, China's getting into it very big right now. If you want to go after people, you're going to kill that industry. And he goes on and on and on. And so you can see the deflection, and he artfully does that. The deflection is brilliant, but it's full of, a lot of bogus stuff. But that's really where that's his superpower,
So if he was upset that they cut something out of the Kamala Harris 60 Minutes piece, then why is it fair that they cut this out of the Trump 60-minute piece?
Well, I mean, that
because he flipped out. Because the more this
he does go on.
continued,
Yeah.
he devolved. Like he goes really upset, and it's all about corruption. And he's called out on this, and he doesn't like it.
As I've told you, I think one of the great things that they should concentrate on in talking about the Trump administration is corruption. I think people can understand corruption, and for that reason, I think it lands with people. Because I'm sorry, all the policy stuff, sadly, doesn't necessarily land as well. But this is to be continued. So that's the 60
The
Minutes.
Mark Thompson Show.
This guy will set us straight on all things. He is the political analyst for iHeart Radio and also the CBS television stations. I also am going to play him because his real sort of granular knowledge of California is so very impressive in California politics. I'll play him a little bit of not the Trump interview, but the Newsom interview. Yeah, Gavin Newsom sat down, and he's kind of taking on a more, shall we say, easily noticed profile when it comes to politics. We'll do that as well. How about it for Gary Dietrich, everybody? Hi, Gary.
Hey, good morning, Mark.
So, I think the shutdown of the government, which is now moving into its second month, I think it deserves a word from you and maybe an analysis of what factors are in play here. And then if you would, I kind of promised everyone that you'd give me some sense of how long this thing might go on.
Yeah, sure, Mark. I'll do my very best on this. I mean, I told folks that I thought, and it looked like, and people inside the Beltway were saying, it looked like they were getting close to a deal. Primarily focused on, we won't get too far into the weeds, but primarily focused on a CR, a continuing resolution. At first was going to be just for another few weeks into November. Now, Republicans have offered, okay, let's just do it to the end of the year. That'll give us more time to negotiate all the healthcare stuff, et cetera. And as the last week went on, you started seeing, interestingly, Democrats beginning to sort of get nervous and fidget in their seats in the U.S. Senate and say, you know what, I'm getting more interested in the CR. Fetterman's been on board the CR thing for a long time, but you had both U.S. senators from Arizona, primarily and perhaps not surprisingly, Democrats who are vulnerable in next year's midterms. And so they said, the heat's on here. And then you had the Washington Post come out and their editorial board saying Democrats in the Senate need to just pass the CR and then get on with the Obamacare conversations. So I really, truly thought, Mark, especially with the cessation of the SNAP benefits on Saturday. But see, here's part of the thing about all these different benefits and so forth. The military's paycheck deadline on Friday, that was supposed to be the tipping point. Well, then all of a sudden there was funds found in the Pentagon for a few more weeks. And the same thing now with SNAP. Now it's going to be partially funded in November. So it's sort of this little tiny kicks at the can down the road. But I would expect that we're getting real close. And then, of course, you had more delays, including places like big airports like LAX, et cetera, over the weekend. I think we're getting closer to the pressure being ratcheted up to where there's something is going to finally break in this dam. But we're at a near historic point in terms of the shutdown. I would be surprised if it goes much past this week. But here's the larger context that's making this one particularly difficult. It's what happened last year in the election. Normally in one of these, brouhahas happen. Okay, we kick the can back and forth, yada, yada. But as you well know, Mark, this has become a real, I had to say this, but a line in the sand for many Democrats, especially progressives, for Schumer and Jeffries. Do not cave under any circumstances. And that has made it much more difficult for them politically.
I'm seeing this and comments like this. Hold the line. 46% of Americans blame Trump and the Republicans. It is that which you're speaking of just a moment ago and comments along those lines that lead me to believe, there's a big, big part of the Democratic Party that feels as though this is our only flex and we're going to use it.
Yeah, Mark, what's really somewhat ironic about that is that the people that are being hurt the most, for example, SNAP beneficiaries, the Obamacare subsidies, people are worried about, those are traditionally Democratic Party constituencies, right? So there is an interesting part that the Democrats are looking at the polls, which you're right. I mean, it depends on which poll you're looking at, how big the margin is. But typically, the last several weeks, Democrats have come out ahead in that in most polls, not all of them. But it's interesting that, there is this sort of push-pull inside the party with some saying, look, we've got to get behind our people who are, going to be suffering from this. sort of hate to use this phrase, but screw the polls. Let's get a CR on the table. And others are saying, no, we have the advantage politically. And it's again, Mark, it's in light of what happened in 24 and what they're also pointing towards in 26.
But what you were saying is interesting because it's kind of both sides. You were saying, those who are affected by SNAP benefits, this is a Democratic constituency traditionally, which is, of course, true. And yet, many of those on SNAP benefits are MAGA constituents. They are, that is to say, voters who full-throatedly support Donald Trump. I mean, the rally goers, the merch buyers, the backbone of his base, as it's called. A lot of them are on assistance, Gary.
Well, and what's interesting, Mark, is that a lot of the Obamacare subsidies are going to people in red states. Now, it's hard sometimes to break down, of course. You're not correlating, oh, they receive an Obamacare subsidy. Let's see what their voter registration is. It's more generic than that, right? But they'll talk about the amount of a subsidy going to a particular state. Now, whether the people in that state are, MAGA supporters or not, harder to drill down on. But this is something that even, for example, you've got a real rogue out there, as you probably know. Marjorie Taylor Greene, of all people, has gone against the president, gone against her own House caucus, gone against their own party and said, look, we got to do something with these healthcare subsidies. A lot of my people, she says, in her district are going to be affected by this or already are be. So there's already cracks in the armor in both parties. We'll see if they can get this thing done. Usually what happens is everybody just kind of says, okay, I got my quarter of a loaf. You got your quarter of a loaf politically, before somebody completely caves in. Let's just agree that we're all going to step away from the table. So far, that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear you say in the next week or so, you feel as though everybody, as you say, has gotten what they're going to get, and it's time to move on. I'm also hearing, Trump and even the GOP in the House side, anyway, have an interest in staying out. And on some level, they may stay out through Thanksgiving. Could you see that? That seems like a long shutdown.
Well, here's the thing about the House, okay? They've already passed the continuing resolution. That's the thing, It's like, what you hear from almost everybody in the House. And interestingly, even House Democrats are not ones making the noises as much. It's Senate Democrats, right? Because the CR is already through the House. I mean, a so-called clean CR, which simply means keep everything as it is, don't change anything till the end of the year. So that's why the House has basically said, this isn't our problem. This is you got to get enough votes in the Senate to pass a CR is basically what it is. Here's what's probably not going to happen, Mark. Probably there's not going to be, and you're already seeing this, there's not going to be a lot of detailed discussions about Obamacare subsidies. Now, behind closed doors, there are some. And people are floating ideas and saying, look, if we come back in, pass the CR, here's 2 or 3 ideas we can vote on. And that's happening even in a bipartisan way. But that's why the House has basically said, this isn't our problem. We passed it. It's a Senate problem.
Tell me what you make of, we're coming off that 60 Minutes interview. I'll play you a couple of cuts, but there was one particular part that I felt was so reminiscent of what we've heard Trump do, and maybe he does it effectively. I don't know. It just strikes me as like, a kid who hasn't read the book that he's supposed to do the book report on. I don't know. And that's the discussions about Obamacare, ACA. You just referenced it. The idea somehow that there is a better healthcare proposal coming from Trump, or we're going to fix the ACA now, is kind of what he's saying. Give me your assessment of how that plays. Like, does that, by now, it just washes over people? People don't care. How does does the average voter it doesn't even show up on their radar? The fact that he really hasn't had the plans that he talks about.
Right. Well, the Democrats for many years have challenged the Republicans. Where's the plan? Where's the alternative to Obamacare? And they put some pieces of that out, what that would look like, right? Some of these pieces they've already started working on, even different subsidies, and sometimes in some cases under Trump, increased pressures, on the drug companies to lower prescription prices, things like that kind of leverage. But there isn't really a wholesale alternative plan out there. I'll tell you, Mark, my thing on healthcare is simply this. I think people have just grown weary of all the promises about healthcare. You have to think how long this has been going on. You got to go back to Bill Clinton putting Hillary in charge of healthcare overall. Think about how long ago that was in 1992, right? And then Obamacare was a major breakthrough. But since then, there's still been concerns about it. The subsidies to Obamacare that really were ramped up during COVID, really provided some relief for people. But I think there's a lot of confusion about what the details really would be in any more changes now. That's why it seems right now they seem to be stuck on, are we going to basically keep Obamacare the way it is and continue these subsidies or not? That's the main sticking point. And frankly, that's the main talking point for Democrats.
Sure.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan.
Okay. Play me something from last night's sit down. Tony, give me the China cut. I wanted to get Gary's reaction on China. He's just returned from China. China's a big player. The trade standoff with China, I just couldn't believe. I mean, this is a critical, sensitive trading partner here, but that doesn't seem to matter. Trump, is a bull in a china shop, if you'll pardon the expression, in this case, and he's gone after them. So here's what he had to say last night. Yeah, thoughts?
Well, I think, look, let's just be honest about it. At this juncture in world history, Russia is not a major threat to the U.S. only in the sense of the massive nuclear stockpile that they retain and the unpredictability, and the saber rattling of Putin over things like theater use of those, for example, of course, in Ukraine. And then the Europeans are more nervous about them than we are. But in terms of, geopolitical cooperation and competition, we talk about this, Mark, it seems like every second or third time I'm on with you. China is really the big competitor. They're the ones continuing the hemispheric expansion, even in the Western hemisphere. They're the ones that in Africa have made major moves. There's a lot more concern about China than there is about Russia. Some of it is military, and our military will tell you that very point blank. They'll cite everything from ship counts to, you go down detailed comparisons, but also, of course, on the economic front. And I really see all of this back and forth. I mean, I don't want to overplay this hand, but it looks like, and some people even call it a very cold, pretty chilly Cold War. I mean, it's really competition for the direction of what markets are going to look like, geopolitical leverage is going to look like going forward. And I do think it's good it's on people's radar screens, because sometimes people go, oh, he's talking about China. Well, China's a big deal. I don't care who you're talking about. When you talk about think tanks, right or left, they know that it is the major player that the U.S. has to find a way to work with and also kind of corral going forward.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember, I think I was in high school, and there was this, the Cold War mentality, and you learned about it, and you lived it on some level. But then commerce and business and the international way in which the world did get smaller because of those things, commerce and business, you realize that, the nuclear thing isn't really the way wars are being prosecuted. It's going to be economic dominance. It's going to be the very real way in which a nation is taking an advantage economically. And that's exactly what has happened, although it seems now to have coexisted with sort of a militarism that has become radicalized in some areas. I'm thinking of the Middle East, and now I'm thinking of South America, and of course, Ukraine. So the two things happen together, but you're right. While the nuclear gets the attention and makes for the nastiest newsprint and gets all the clicks, it really is the world of commerce that will decide so much. And it was front and center even in the conversation last night, although I don't think there was much light spread in the conversation with Norah O'Donnell,
I will say, Mark, there's one other third sort of leg of that stool, and that's technology. That is what has changed so much since the fall of the Soviet Union that has completely changed the dynamic. Most of the conflict that you hear on a regular kind of daily basis about China is technological, and it was referenced in that Norah O'Donnell clip, infiltration of systems. The electronic warfare part of it is something that people don't talk about as much out on the street, But that's really what the people inside the Beltway are more focused on in many ways than militaristic. It's what kind of systems do we have to harden and protect? What kind of infiltration has there been in systems of commerce, but also in government and in academia? Those are the kind of things that really have people very concerned. How much is China truly monitoring, the American people in a variety of ways? What access do they have to our infrastructure systems? We keep hearing about that. Water, power grids, etc. Those are the kind of things right now that really, if you want to say what is the new Cold War, it's over technology.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And that's why when Trump comes forward with I want to test our nuclear devices and, I want to build more ships or whatever. I mean, it's like, dude, that's over. It's about technology now. I mean, real national security is about, listen to what Dietrich just said. I mean, it's that stuff that you have to harden. The world of technology is really where this is happening. And similarly, I don't mean to take a gratuitous shot at Trump, but, when you orphan science, when you really take down so many of these scientific programs and research programs that have been the sine qua non, the very top of the game in this country traditionally, at top of the world, you do real damage. And so I kind of lament that alongside everything else. I wanted to play you, and I know our time's limited here, but I want to play you a cut or two more, and then I want to get some Gavin Newsom stuff into you as well, please. How about Saudi Arabia, please? Yeah, I mean, he's still taking the victory lap on blasting Iran, but thoughts on his disposition toward the Saudis?
Yeah, well, the Saudis have always been, sometimes overtly, many, many times, sort of, as they say, quiet power. The Saudis have always been the big linchpin in the Middle East. They are the big kahuna when it comes to dollars, comes to oil, comes to leverage. I mean, they are always seen as, if you don't get the Saudis on board, you don't have a full deal. And what's interesting is that a lot of the countries, of course, around Saudi Arabia, I mean, Egypt hosted, right, these Israel Palestinian signing that just happened recently. So you've got a lot of the major players around there. I really see this Saudi meeting as basically Trump saying, look, you're the last big player that really needs to sign off on this thing. We need you to get it done. And I'm sure, I have no doubt that there will be incentives that come with that, etc., and also warnings. But make no mistake about it, the Saudis were not unhappy that we bombed Iran, right? I mean, they were perfectly okay with that. You didn't hear anybody on the Saudi media going, boy, this is terrible. Nope. Absolute silence, right? So they have always been sort of had that kind of role. You can tell as much from their silence as you can from what they say or do.
Well, and the Saudis have now, with their money, taken over so many aspects of American cultural existence, sports, entertainment. And these are areas of culture that you wouldn't necessarily traditionally anyway associate a Saudi involvement with, but they are very much involved. I mean, as I'm saying, it really is a complete takeover. And Formula One, these are all things that speak to the way the Saudis are. They're changing their brand a little bit, I think, and they're also very much involved with a lot of things that have to do with American culture. And in that way, I think America, as you suggested, does have some leverage with the Saudis in terms of moving that Middle East deal forward to a better place.
Yeah,
I wanted to.
I'll just say one sentence about that. It is quite remarkable to see a Islamic-based country, get involved in horse racing, golf, even to some degree gambling, sports and all. I mean, it's really quite remarkable to see the cultural shift in that U.S. Mideast relationship, particularly with the Saudis, just in the last 10 years.
I gotta just quickly give me a heartbeat on Venezuela and the cartel strikes that are threatened by this administration in Mexico, and then I want to get to Newsom. But just give me a heartbeat on this. And I think, the smack talk was getting really rough toward the end of last week, and it included now, Mexico. We may actually take make some moves against the cartels in Mexico as well. Speak to both, if you would, please.
Well, I see this as an escalation model, Mark. I mean, taking out boats in the Gulf or now in the Eastern Pacific. I think that's kind of a shot across the bow, no pun intended, right? I mean, you start talking about they're talking about taking out drug labs in some of these countries on the ground, et cetera. I sort of see this as, look, we're serious about this drug influx thing now. It's not going to just be at our own borders. We're going to be more proactive about it. We're even doing that with the leverage on China. As you know, part of the conversation was about fentanyl. So, I see this as continuing to escalate. I don't know where it stops, Mark. I don't know how serious the administration really is about sending F-35s in and taking out, drug plants or whatever it is, distribution centers in some of these countries. I mean, that would obviously be a massive escalation.
And how's he going to do that, Gary, when he's busy with defending Christians on the continent of Africa?
Well, you got the Gerald R. Ford, the biggest ship in the entire world in the Gulf. So we'll see what happens. I don't think anybody really knows for sure where this ends, but I think so far it's been okay. Let's see, this escalation is, let's see if they're going to do something serious to stop the flow of drugs out of their countries.
Well, the saber rattling, and that's the reason I mentioned Africa, is that it seems to know no sort of geographic focus. As I say, if you can smack talk those on the continent of Africa, and you can smack talk those in Latin America and Eastern Europe and the EU. I mean, not to mention Canada and Mexico. I mean, he's got a lot of bilious rage in there. Quickly now to Gavin Newsom. Newsom sat down, and this is no surprise. No surprise that his presidential aspirations are no surprise. Just to fill out that thought, but let's watch a little bit, and then I want to get you know your client very well here, so you know your subject, I should say.
I want to be clear.
Yeah,
he's not a client. Never has.
That's what I corrected it. I said you know your subject very well.
I want people to understand this is really important distinction in our day. You know this, Mark, but this is very important to me. There are political consultants, of which I'm not, and there are political analysts, of which I am. The consultants are people that, they're hired guns for a Newsom, a Kamala Harris, a party, a proposition, or whatever. I don't do any of that, as you know. I am strictly on the media side of things, and that's important for people to know.
That is my bad, and I'm very sorry. I was looking for a word to sort of say, this territory so well. You're probably like, I don't even need to see it. I can tell you, but yes, indeed, he's a subject that you've reported on through the years, not anyone you have any kind of professional association with apart from that. Okay, let's see a little of Gavin Newsom.
Former Vice President writes that she scrambled to reach prominent Democrats hours after President Biden exited the race. And she said that you responded to her call, quote, by saying, Gavin Newsom hiking will call back. He never did. Is that what happened?
100%. And I sent out an endorsement, and a few minutes after that, I was one of her first endorsements. The reason she was calling. I've known Kamala all my life. The last person she needs to reach out to is me. So I learned the news. I wanted to get in touch with the Biden folks. I was out on an actual hike. And I said, I was like, Kamala, you got 1 million people to call. And we were literally working as she reached out. It was a voicemail, by the way, unknown number for the record. And as she was on to her next calls, we were already on to our press release endorsing her. So I don't even know why I was even in the book.
Did you feel like she took a swipe at you in her book?
It's all good. We've known each other for 20 years. And
I don't need to see this. I don't even know why we're still talking about this crap. But all right, go ahead, Gary.
Well, I think what's important out of this, Mark, is let's make no mistake about it. I mean, for people who don't know, this has been a love-hate relationship. They can cozy up to each other as much as they want, but these two have been on a political collision course for a long time. I mean, they both came out of San Francisco. They were literally, you know this, Mark, you were in the city. They were local elected officials, one the mayor, one the DA in San Francisco at the exact same time. And then they started rising up through the ranks, him as lieutenant governor, her as AG. Then she got that Senate seat. Then she was, picked by Biden as VP. But let's make no mistake about it. When that whole thing went down with Biden, this is all people need to remember or need to know if they don't know it. Gavin Newsom was all over the idea of having a short primary. There was no way he was going to endorse Kamala unless he had to. because he clearly wanted in on the game to be one of the short list folks who would run in that abbreviated, very abbreviated, some were saying 3 or 4 week primary process, and it didn't happen. And, you know,
just as a matter of opinion, Gary Dietrich, would that have mattered to A, who the candidate turned out to be, and B, the general? That is to say, whether or not Trump could have been defeated.
You know, it's interesting. If you listen to a lot of party insiders, George Clooney came out in the last week and said, hey, man, I wanted the primary, and I think it was a mistake to just anoint Kamala, right? I think there's a lot of people that feel like there's a good chance she would not have been the nominee. And if she had been, it would have been better for her to look like she, quote unquote, earned it. She didn't just say, oh, thanks, Joe. Give me my hall pass. Boom. I think, remember, Pelosi and others were advocating the primary system. Even quietly, Barack Obama said we ought to have a primary system. For those very reasons, it didn't happen. The rest is history. But look, she is now scheduled. This is all people need to know about Kamala Harris. She is now scheduled and booked the Golden One Center, the Kings Basketball Arena next April in Sacramento for the end of her quote unquote book tour. Now, Mark, I don't know about you. I've never heard of a book tour in a basketball arena holding 10 or 12,000 people. That sure looks an awful lot like the start of a presidential campaign.
Wow. The hubris there is, well, let's wait, and there'll be much to talk about. Right. You did mention Nancy Pelosi. Tell me what's going to happen with her. Now she's possibly retiring, so I wanted to get it.
You know, she's got a serious competitor now in her state senator Scott Wiener, who has said for a long time, when Nancy leaves, that's basically my district. I'm going to run in it. He said, I'm going to wait till she makes her move. She kept hemming and hawing around, she and her people. He finally came out and said, I'm running regardless. And so the pressure is on her to retire. As you know, Mark, I sort of see it a lot like the classic NFL quarterbacks have been really successful for a long time. Hard to step off the gridiron, my friend. Hard to do it. Yeah. And I have a feeling she will. But boy, that would be, talk about ugly San Francisco politics. If those two took each other on, wow, that would be something.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's what Democrats do best. That food fight, the political food fighting, is something that really is part of the game. Anyway, Gary, we covered a lot. I left stuff out, believe it or not, but it was great that we got to everything we did. So appreciate you and look forward to our next visit. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mark. Have a great show.
Gary Dietrich, everybody. I love it. Yeah, in fact, I want to tell you how much I love it. I extend my love to Bill Campbell, who actually steps up and sponsors Gary on this show. Bill Campbell is at RE/MAX Gold. If you're relocating to or from Northern California, you want a highly respected real estate professional, Bill Campbell is that man. RE/MAX Gold is that place. You can call or text Bill Campbell, 530-448-7474. 530-448-7474. Bill Campbell, RE/MAX Gold.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I love it. I'm here with Kim, with Tony. Soon I'll have a Pulitzer Prize winner joining us. And I do want to note I am enjoying the best cup of coffee that money can buy.
Really good.
Coachella Valley coffee. I'm drinking the Clarity Blend, which I have been hooked on like a crack addict for months now. These are all organic productions. They're all women-owned farms. The politics of it, the artistry of it, the boutique nature of it, it all appeals to me, Kim. I love this stuff.
I love it too.
The coffee, the tea, the spices. Look at this. Oh.
And they're so nice as well.
They are transcendently nice. Yeah. You can order for yourself what I consider to be the best coffee money can buy. Best coffee I've ever tasted. And my friends, I've had coffee with kings and princes on the Croisette of the Cannes Film Festival. I've had coffee at the L'Hermitage patio in Monte Carlo. I've had coffee.
Did you see Trump there?
In the alleys of Vietnam. Please don't interrupt me when I'm in
Oh,
one
sorry.
of my...
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The back alleys of Vietnam. Some little cafe. I've had coffee. On the Amalfi Coast, I think you get the idea.
Yeah.
And this is the best coffee I've ever had. Cliff and the crew there at Coachella Valley Coffee would love to help you out. Order yourself a bit of the hand-roasted coffee. It's all hand-roasted. It's all curated by these people who care so much about their product. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Do enter our discount code for 10% off. Mark T at checkout. 10% off anything on the site. Coffee, tea, spices, whatever. Merch if you want. It's all there. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I will get to comments in a bit. I don't want to leave him waiting any longer, though. This guy is a Pulitzer Prize winner, writes for business and in the LA Times about business and commerce. And I just think he's a great, great mind. As I say, he is a Pulitzer Prize winner. We went to the same university, Kim. So in a way, as I've said, I'm Pulitzer Prize adjacent. That's all I'm saying.
No.
How about it for the great Michael Hiltzik? You are a wondrous sight to see, my friend. Thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. And I just want to say, you may have enjoyed the coffee that your friends and sponsors provide for you, but you haven't tasted the coffee that I roast myself here in my backyard.
Wow.
What?
Wow. I do tell. Give me 30 seconds more on that. How long have you been roasting your own coffee, Hiltzik?
I've been doing it for years, and it's great. It's sort of a hobby, and basically it allows me to to set my own varietals and judge the roast. And it's
what's the toughest part of roasting your own coffee, Michael?
Well, I'd say that the toughest part is basically that you have to do it outside because it produces a lot of smoke and steam. You can't do it in the house. And the machinery I use basically beeps me periodically to make sure that I'm keeping an eye on it so that the roast doesn't basically catch fire. So I have to sort of tend it. And that's, that can be a half an hour of paying attention. But other than that,
science is ridiculous.
I'm so proud of you.
And by the way, I come off as obsessed about coffee, but you have no idea how obsessed people can be about coffee and their equipment, and
Oh yeah.
They talk about what temperature and how long, and
sure. I have 3 Burr grinders, and I have.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah, and I mean it's. But that said, it's nice to have something to obsess about that is not, it's at least it's not, I'm not weighing out bags of heroin, you know what I mean, or whatever it is. I mean, it could be. It could
we
be
all
so
need
much work.
We all need a legal hobby. To keep
Thank you. Exactly. All right.
Thank you, Mike.
Michael Hiltzik, Pulitzer Prize winner. Tell me about the food stamp program. You did a column on the history of food stamps and how this very important thing, which serves the economically vulnerable, has sort of a troubled history.
Yeah, just to start off, I would say it's unbelievable. It's just extraordinary to see, the federal government's leadership. I mean, Trump and the Agriculture Secretary doing everything they can to avoid providing 40 million Americans with food assistance. We know this, if Democrats were in power today, they would have moved heaven and earth to make sure that these benefits get paid. They would have found the money. The money is legally present. And for Trump to say, we're not, we don't have the legal right to pay it is preposterous and ludicrous, and really tells you a lot about, as you said, the history of this program. The first food stamp program was enacted in 1939, and we know what was going on at that time. It was still, the Depression was still biting. And ever since then, it's come and gone. But the program that exists today was enacted, I think, in the 60s, and it's crucial to Americans to have this assistance, and we know this. The idea that we're just going to let America, 30-40% of the beneficiaries of this program are children. They are all low-income households. There's just no excuse for this. But the
numbers
Republicans have been hostile to this program for as long as they've been hostile to Social Security, which, as we know, dates back to the 1930s. They just do not want government to help the masses of Americans. They want government to help them, millionaires and billionaires,
and to bail out major corporations that are in trouble, either through either banking institutions or tech institutions, as we saw earlier this year with Intel. What I liked about your column, in addition to kind of putting it into a historical perspective, was just what you referenced, which is it's such little money. I mean, it's not a lot of money that's going to these starving families or families that are economically stressed.
No, when you really boil it down, you're really talking about $2 per meal per individual over a period of per day, but over a period of 30 days. But for the households that need this and receive it, it's a big deal. It can really make the difference between hunger and feeding your children. But Republicans have had the knives out for this program all along. They've tried to restrict what people can buy. They've slandered beneficiaries of this program by saying they just want to buy cigarettes and alcohol and the fact of the matter is that you can't buy cigarettes or liquor with food stamps. You have to buy food, and that's what most people do. I mean, almost all people, they buy exactly the same market basket as families that are not dependent on food stamps.
Let me read a little bit from Pulitzer Prize winner Michael Hiltzik's column about this. What's seldom understood, because it deals with even another part of this program, what's seldom understood by the program's critics is its importance to the U.S. economy generally, and the farm economy in particular, because SNAP is counter-cyclical, meaning it expands when the economy slumps and shrinks during recoveries. Every dollar spent on benefits yields as much as $1.50 in economic gains. As a team of USD analysts calculated in 2019, every $1 billion in SNAP benefits produces a $1.5 billion gain in gross domestic product, which supports 13,560 new jobs, including 32 million added income going to agricultural industries that support 480 agricultural jobs. Again, you kind of show the receipts on the way in which SNAP, this program, is more than just a handout.
That's right. And, the farm lobby, farmers love SNAP because it's a customer. Not only is it a customer for their produce, but many of them have market days in which they basically have been certified to accept food stamps to sell food to their low-income customers. So, it's an economic boon. It works. It keeps millions of people, millions of children out of malnutrition. And here are these, Republicans, Trump, Brooke Collins, the USDA secretary, they're acting as though it's really not important. And that, they have no choice but to cut off benefits. It's just ridiculous. And I would hope that people really get a sense as to the cruelty of this cutoff by hearing testimony from the people who need it.
Yeah, and the cruelty associated with many of the administration's policies, it seems to be kind of a defining feature. In the case of immigration, I thought it was telling last night when the president of the United States, when talked to about the ICE realities, that that they're gassing people, that is to say, tear gassing people in neighborhoods, they're throwing mothers to the ground who are who seem to be fairly innocent bystanders. When asked about that, the president took the position that no, I'm not at all troubled by this. In fact, I think it should be more aggressive than it is. And I'm wondering, again, with the SNAP program, there doesn't seem to be, it's a pretty cold-hearted group that is turning down north of 40 million Americans who need this program.
Yeah, not only have they done that, but, there was food that was actually about to be shipped to food banks and other philanthropic recipients that the Trump administration basically ordered to be burned up, destroyed. Food banks that were expecting deliveries, last week were told it's not coming. We've basically thrown all this food in the trash. What they're thinking. I'm wary of trying to look into their heads because that's a dark place, and I don't want to get infected. But there's no explanation whatsoever that makes any sense for this sort of behavior and this sort of policy. And in fact, two federal judges just the other day, told the federal government, no, you have to pay these benefits. You can't pretend that they can't legally be paid. And the last thing I saw, the Trump administration said, well, we'll pay half the benefits. That's all we can afford.
I mean, look, we're busy building an arch, a ballroom, and bailing out Venezuela. Okay, so give us a break with this stuff.
There was a documentary and a book that juxtaposed the Ethiopian famine with what was going on among Ethiopian leaders at the time of that famine. They were having banquets, and there were shots of them having a banquet while there were thousands and thousands of refugees who were going stuff. Well, this is exactly the same image. Just on Saturday, I guess Trump had a huge party, a huge banquet at Mar-a-Lago for his pals, in which they chowed down and they got they danced. They had photographers there, and that was the day that SNAP benefits were being cut off. And, isn't there somebody in this administration to say, let's make this problem go away, and not by cutting off benefits, but by paying them?
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, no, you're right. That juxtaposition is extraordinary. So I don't know even how to square it, except for the fact that, again, his base seems unshakable. And they are, in the main, very much affected by a lot of these policies and the brutality of those policies as well. I
think his base is beginning to shrink. I mean, we're seeing from opinion polls that his unpopularity is increasing rapidly. And you're right. A lot of people who voted for Trump, a lot of residents in red states, in fact, red states, people in red states get much more in terms of food stamps and other assistance like that than people in blue states. So, Trump is swanking around saying, well, all of the recipients of SNAP are Democrats. The exact opposite is true. So he's really just punishing his own core base. I don't get it. I don't know anybody who does get it.
In my last minute, I wanted to ask you about something that maybe we could follow up on this another time, because to me it's intriguing. The idea that we smear the Communist Party as it has risen, and socialism as it has written and risen elsewhere in the world. And I understand why these authoritarian regimes generally accompany a lot of these communist type of parties, and even socialist parties, populist parties. But what I'm seeing with this administration is an increasing effort to kind of take over companies and areas of production that kind of put them in the category of socialists. I mean, he's talking about wanting to build nuclear power plants. He's chosen a company to build. He wants the government to get 20% of this Westinghouse deal with these nuclear power plants. The NVIDIA thing, he wants a piece of that. And it seems as though his deals with China and his deals with these tech companies do involve America having a piece of the action, you know? And I understand there can be public-private partnerships through the years. You have a better window on that history than do I. But this seems to be an out-and-out dipping our toe into almost a socialist flex. Can you just speak to that quickly?
Yeah, sure. You know, in the old days, in the 1930s, when it was suggested that Social Security would build up a big reserve, and a Republican senator at the time asked the drafters of the Social Security bill, what are you going to do with all that money? And the drafter said, well, you know, you could invest in stocks. And Arthur Vandenberg, you know, a Republican of Virginia, if I remember correctly, threw up his hands and said, that would be socialism. And they outlawed Social Security from investing in stocks. And Social Security can only invest its reserves in Treasury securities. But that's the same thing. You know, once you have the federal government taking stakes in public companies and private companies, then basically you are opening the doors to an incredible amount of conflicts of interest within the government and outside the government. And it's something you have to guard against very, very carefully. But for Trump, this is all about him taking a payoff and him getting tribute from big business. And you know, some of these deals don't even benefit the country as a whole. They benefit Trump and his family. So we know what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a grift. And I'm glad that you call it out as such. And that's to be continued, because it really does seem to be a big part of what he's doing now and his plans for the future. You know, there'll be Trump Inc. is going to be a very big part of deals made with the American economy. Michael Hiltzik, always a pleasure to speak with you. I think you're just so very smart. And now that I know that you actually roast your own beans, you've really vaulted yourself to an even greater level.
I roast my own beans. That's right. That's a good way to put it.
All right. Get back to the roasting. Michael Hiltzik, everyone. Thank Michael Hiltzik. Yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I mean, you know, everybody needs to roast their own beans once in a while, and Michael's on it. That's what the kids tell me. Yeah.
He has the best office of any journalist I've ever seen.
He does. I don't even know if that's a real office. Maybe he just set it up.
You think it's a backdrop, like an AI backdrop?
No, I think it's real. But he's the real thing. He's a real intellectual. You know, I think he's the real thing. You should read his stuff. L.A. Times.
Probably, if you ask him where anything is, he knows exactly where it is. Goes right to it.
Well, he couldn't find the Pulitzer Prize for it. Remember, the first time we had him on, he couldn't find the Pulitzer.
I know.
Where do you get? You must have it in a place. I think I have it here somewhere. Wow. Man, that'd be the first thing you see when you come to my house. Yeah, I'd have that Pulitzer right out there. I'd make those Pulitzer committee people proud. Anyway, I know I have to. I'll be right there. I'll be right there. Yeah. So.
We'll do a little news?
We'll do a little news. I just wanted to take a quick comment from Chaplain Fred. Mark, it is Shadow Stevens' birthday today, who is he's the voice of the show, you know. And he is he's a towering figure in this.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, that guy. Right. He's he's got a big voice like that. Mark, it's Shadow. How are you?
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah. Mark, will you have Shadow come on your show? Love Shadow. Well, I actually asked him if you wanted to come on today. And he's got something else going on today, but he does say hello to everybody.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Very good. I'll bump everything else for a few minutes, but I do want to get to everybody's comments. And we'll do that. First, if you would smash the like button like a boss.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yes.
Smash
do it for Shadow.
With your iron rod.
Do it for Shadow Stevens. And Kim's news, and then we continue. All right. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by the amazing Coachella Valley Coffee. Millions of Americans will begin receiving partial SNAP benefits this month as the government shutdown continues. In a court filing today, the Trump administration said it will indeed use contingency funds to cover 50% of eligible households' current allotments. 50%. That means a lot of people are still without. This comes after two separate rulings last week ordered the Trump administration to tap into those emergency funds that'll cover some food assistance program benefits. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is warning of more air travel disruptions as the government shutdown continues. During an appearance on CBS's Face the Nation, Duffy said passenger safety is still top priority, but he did predict more slowdowns and delays along with flight cancellations as air traffic controllers work without pay or pick up second jobs to try to make ends meet. The Supreme Court set to hear oral arguments on the legality of President Trump's tariffs on Wednesday. Trump, who had previously said he was considering the unprecedented move of attending those arguments, told reporters aboard Air Force One yesterday he has decided against doing that. The president set to hold tele-rallies in Virginia and New Jersey later today. Voters in both states will head to the polls tomorrow to elect new governors. Democrats leading in the polls in both states, but in New Jersey, Republican candidate Jack Ciattarelli has been closing the gap to almost a dead heat. So the tele-rallies could make the difference in those states. The top U.S. officials are saying President Trump's nuclear testing will not involve nuclear explosions. This according to Energy Secretary Chris Wright, saying the testing will involve the other parts of a nuclear explosion or a nuclear weapon to ensure that they're working properly. The Energy Secretary's comments followed President Trump's announcement that he was ordering the Pentagon to step up the testing of nuclear weapons.
I love how the administration has to circle the wagons rationalizing and somehow explaining the Mad King's utterances, even though we know they're crazy. Like, he talks about the nuclear testing. We explained immediately on this show, there hasn't been any nuclear testing. They were testing the delivery systems of these various nuclear missiles. And after Trump kind of goes prattling on about it, and of course he never back pedals or any way modifies what he has to say. So the administration has to do he didn't mean that, he meant this other stuff.
Yeah.
But he was talking about, in fact, in the 60 Minutes interview, he talked about the fact that Kim in North Korea is doing weapons testing. And, fortunately, Norah O'Donnell said, well, when we were talking about Russia and China, they're not testing anything, open-air nuclear testing of any kind. So you began to see that, he got the memo, but it was slow in getting there. And he's, this dude's a party planner. He's a guy who slaps gold on buildings. He tears crap down. He wants to do what he wants to do. And he isn't there to do any kind of real deep thinking or create a blueprint for the future of America. He is absolutely, Michael Wolff said he knows nothing about anything, and David K. Johnston said the same. I mean, I don't know if he knows nothing about anything. I think he's a very clever marketer, and I think he's a very clever player of the media, but to a really dark end. But on the nuclear testing thing, it was crazy hilarious, and now here we see it in today's story that you're doing, Kim, that his administration is going, no, what the Mad King means is, there's a lot of that. What the Mad King means is.
But when he originally said it, that nuclear testing is coming back, I mean, in my mind, the mushroom clouds popped up, and I'm thinking,
of course.
What? Yeah. No. Yeah, that's not what they mean at all. Okay. The United States is launching a global trading club for critical minerals. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum emphasizing the importance, pardon me, of energy security as the nation aims to lead the artificial intelligence arms race, is what they're calling it. Burgum says the nation must get back in the power generation game to stay competitive, and keeping electricity affordable is essential. He also highlighted the interconnectedness of energy security and national security as well. The widow of Charlie Kirk is fighting to have cameras in the courtroom for the trial of her husband's assassin. Erica Kirk telling Fox News' Jesse Waters, there have been cameras all over her husband when he was murdered, so there should be cameras in court. The Utah judge in the case has placed restrictions on camera coverage of the preliminary court proceedings for the accused killer, but has not yet banned cameras entirely. Nancy Pelosi may be calling it quits. Several reports say the Democratic leadership is signaling the former House Speaker will not seek another term. She's been in politics for nearly 4 decades, representing her San Francisco-based district. A Pelosi spokesperson declining to confirm her plans, saying she remains focused on passing Prop 50, the effort to redraw congressional maps to increase Democratic seats. Tylenol maker Kenvue is being sold in a deal worth billions. Kimberly Clark announcing a cash and stock deal valued at $48.7 billion to buy Kenvue. The deal would bring brands like Huggies and Kleenex under the same roof as Tylenol and Band-Aid.
Acetaminophen, commonly known as Tylenol.
Okay. Yeah.
The deal expected to be finalized in the second half of next year. There are 2 suspects now facing federal charges in the alleged Michigan terror plot. They're among the 5 people FBI Director Kash Patel announced had been arrested last week for allegedly plotting a violent attack over Halloween weekend. According to the criminal complaint, one of the men bought a shotgun and an AR-15 style rifle along with other accessories in August and September. They claim there was no Halloween terror plot. Officials in Louisiana investigating after 2 girls were injured when they were thrown off a Ferris wheel. Happened at the New Roads Harvest Festival on Saturday. One girl reportedly suffering broken bones, the other with a possible brain bleed, both considered non-life-threatening injuries. They were 20 or 25 feet off the ground when they fell off that Ferris wheel. Jon Stewart will stick around The Daily Show for at least another year. Paramount announcing Stewart renewed his deal to host the satire news show once a week until December of 2026. He'll also serve as executive producer. He returned to the show last year ahead of the presidential election after leaving in 2015. Los Angeles celebrating the Dodgers World Series championship today. Huge crowds, lined the streets of downtown LA for the victory parade, and followed by a rally at Dodger Stadium. Look at all those people, Mark. Wow. The Dodgers rallied to beat the Toronto Blue Jays in extra innings in Game 7 of the series Saturday to give LA its second World Series.
It was pretty great. I got to say, if you know, I got it. There are a lot of people who are part of this show and who listen and watch this show who live in the Bay Area and are Giants fans. And I think if you're a Giants fan, it's hard to root for the Dodgers. But man, they played a terrific series. They had they had a historic game, of course, that went 18 innings during the series. They climbed back into the series when the percentages were overwhelmingly against them doing so once they went down 3-2 in the series. So they had to win back-to-back games on the road in Toronto. And then, as you said, it went extra innings. It was really spectacular. And so congratulations to everybody in Los Angeles. You deserve to be happy and to feel a little pride in a team that really is dynastic at this point. I mean, it's back-to-back championships and really, really impressive. And congratulations, Tony, and everybody else who was
Luis,
Dodger adjacent. Luis is probably our biggest Dodger fan in the chat. That's exactly right.
Sesame Street will make its Netflix debut next week. The first 4 episodes of the long-running children's show will premiere November 10th on the streaming service. Sesame Street's move to Netflix came after HBO Max didn't renew its deal with the show. So there you go. As far as guest stars, you know, when you have made it onto Sesame Street, you know you've made it. NASCAR champion Bubba Wallace will be the show's first guest star.
Wow, that is great. Great.
Lastly, Dwayne Roberts has passed away. Who is he? Well, you might not connect the name with what he's done for America. He is a billionaire known for inventing the frozen burrito in 1956. Yeah.
Wow.
He passed away at the age of 88. Thanks for giving us the frozen burrito, Mr. Roberts.
And this is their new hoax.
It seems to have caught on.
There he
the
is.
Frozen burrito.
Everybody's got
I
one.
didn't realize that. Somebody had to come up with the idea and make it happen, I guess.
That's right.
Doesn't seem like a big idea, but it's an actual huge idea.
Huge idea. Dwayne Roberts passing away at the age of 88. This report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. The best coffee, the best tea that you will ever put past your lips, as Mark likes to say. Please use our secret super code, MarkT, at checkout. No spaces, MarkT, secret super code. It'll get you 10% off at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. And check out that tea, that vanilla tea. I'm telling you.
Spices, tea, it's all there.
It's so good. So good. I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
Vilma says, I'm a Giants fan here. Wanted Canada to stick it to Trump.
Oh,
yeah, Trump is everywhere. You know, you can't. We're not watching baseball, and it's still. I'm voting them because they're more MAGA people on that team. Yeah, there it is. Dodgers paid mightily. Vilma says. Yeah. Trevor Starr in Hollywood says, how do you invent a frozen burrito? You just put a burrito in the freezer. Right? That's what I thought. But apparently there's more to it than that.
The science is ridiculous.
Apparently it is.
In the 1950s, you apparently did not have the frozen burrito until he came up with it, Mr. Robert.
Yeah. Meantime, let us eat cake, says Richard Delamater. Yeah. The Trump people having their roaring 20s party at Mar-a-Lago while the rest of us are on the outside waiting for our SNAP benefits to be reinstated. Chaplain Frez said, Trump be like, I'll buy that for $1. RoboCop. Tony, help me with that reference, please. Do you know what that reference is? Can't hear Tony, so that's...
So it was one of the fake commercials, I think, in RoboCop.
Oh,
right.
very...
Thanks, Tony.
I just
had
love
the
my
fake
Tony.
commercials and stuff.
Gosh, that's just so good.
Such a good movie, that first one. Oh,
yeah,
even the second one was
pretty
good.
Great. First one was pretty great. I believe the courts realized that hungry grocery market flash mobs might topple the rule of law. The general public would then learn to apply it. Interesting. Richard Delamater says that. I mean, I do think at some point he has to worry about all of this stuff washing down with the American people. You know, I don't care how many of those quick response fighting forces you have. Hi, peeps. We'll catch the show in replay. I'm at Dodger Stadium celebrating our back-to-back championships. What an incredible series. Props to Toronto. Hashtag three-peat. Luis, gracious, even in celebration, recognizing Toronto. Luis, congratulations to you. Really something special. It was a great series, immensely entertaining.
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah. Maybe we should just call the show Kim and Friends, says West Theory.
Why?
The engineers rotate out, and even the host is out occasionally. Kim is always constant. Yeah. You should call it Kim and Friends. I think, yeah, it's
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. Thanks for all of those comments. The comments and super stickers are live, and they continue as we are a live show for 2 hours every day, 2 to 4 in the East and 11 to 1 in the West. Thanks for being here. Yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
The first Monday of every month, we like to turn the focus on the world of animals, sweet, innocent creatures whose habitat, of course, we are destroying and whose lives we're making awful. All right. This is A Word About Animals.
Now, a word about animals on the Mark Thompson Show.
And the person who guides us through this segment every month, Karen Dawn from Dawn Watch. She, of course, is a very active Facebook following, and you can find her across the big worldwide web. Karen Dawn of Dawn Watch. You know, I was glad that you mentioned something which is very much something that I've spoken out about before, and that is the weaponization of the law and the changing of laws and terminology when it comes to the use of the word terrorism and when it comes to animal activists. In fact, Kim will tell you this, I've even referenced the fact as the verbiage around protesters started to find its way to the word terrorists. They're radical terrorists, they're left-wing terrorists. The minute you use the word terrorists, it's not just an invective that you're hurling some insult. It actually takes what's going on to a different place legally, a much darker, much more intense place legally. And so why am I saying this in relation to Karen Dawn before I've even let her say one word? Because there is a terrorism law, the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act, that was passed after 9/11, and it is being used to prosecute animal activists. And the terms, the sentencing terms, are really dark. And so, Karen, with that lengthy setup, perhaps too lengthy a setup, I wonder if you can apply what I'm talking about, the use of that terrorism law in the world of prosecuting animal activists, and contextualize it with some of the news of today.
Hey there. Yeah, it is highly relevant to animal news this week because Zoe Rosenberg, who's an activist with Direct Action Everywhere, DXE, was arrested for having stolen, she would say rescued, the law would say stolen, 4 chickens some time ago. And this trial has been in the works and took place since I last saw you. And she was convicted of stealing these 4 chickens. She was also she was convicted of trespassing, and she was convicted of tampering with a vehicle and of conspiracy. And what is of great concern, activists don't really mind being convicted and arrested and for their activism. It's a pretty there's a nice history of activists being willing to be arrested during protests, etc. But one of Zoe's convictions is for felony conspiracy. And that is to do with what you were just talking about, which is the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act, which was a law that was passed in the wake of 9/11, when the whole country was on alert for terrorism. And the biomedical and big agribusiness industries cynically used this fear to push through a law which had nothing to do with terrorism, but which they called the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act, so that it would get quickly passed without too much debate. And what this law did was it made it possible for any minor misdemeanor, such as trespassing, when it was done against an animal enterprise, a place that made money from animals, and as we know that's generally from torturing animals, into a felony. So usually you can't call trespassing or some sort of conspiracy against a company a felony. But thanks to this law that got passed, basically by the legislators owned by the biomedical and big pharma industries, passed this law. There was hardly any discussion. And now when animal activists are just doing activism, such as taking 4 hens from a farm to put them on the internet and let people know the kind of conditions that they were living in and the horrors that they were going through at this industry, suddenly these activists are in fear of going to jail on felony crimes. And this is what's happened to Zoe. She got convicted. Now, interestingly, I think the DA in her wisdom did not prosecute trespassing as a felony. And I think, we've had times in the past where a DA chooses to over prosecute and then ends up with nothing, with no wins. So, they had the good sense to use their discretion only to prosecute the trespassing as trespassing, but they prosecuted the conspiracy charge as a felony. And so Zoe Rosenberg has been convicted of a felony. Now, whether or not she could go to jail for 4 years, or the DA does have the judge has the discretion to give her probation, and that's what we can hope for, that despite her having been convicted of a felony, she's not going to be serving time in prison, but that's yet to be seen. But the very fact that she has been convicted of a felony for stealing 4 chickens from a multi-million-dollar business is because of the ridiculous power of big ag and big pharma. It's the same. And those 2 lobby groups got together to pass the AETA, the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act, which makes the most minor crimes into a felony if they're committed against animal enterprise.
Yeah, so December 3rd, they will decide her fate in terms of sentencing. But to Karen's point, the important thing is let me just state it bluntly, if you mess with our business, with our commercial business, we will prosecute you. And because we're big, bad business, we will prosecute you as a terrorist, and you will go away for a long time. So to be fair, when you say stealing these 4 chickens, it really is just that. I mean, I don't think you're making it sound any better or softer than it was. It was just taking these 4 chickens, but again, you're taking them from this business which has got 4,000 chickens, right, waiting to be hung upside down and have their throats cut. But to the point, you're messing with our business. You're on our property. This is our business, and we will prosecute you, and you will go away for a long time. And with Big Pharma, you can break into one of their labs. You can get one of their beagles or a couple of their beagles out of that lab situation. And if you do, you will be prosecuted as a terrorist, and you will go away for a long time because you're messing with our business, is their view. And I'll go one step further, and you should see this documentary. I think it's called Animal People. I did a podcast with them many years ago, and that was about a group of people who did nothing in terms of breaking in to any farm or any lab. All they did was they identified the bankers who were investing in these businesses that were involved with animal cruelty, and for just that embargo that they began to perpetuate and get enough momentum behind to create headlines and actually produce results. Just the embargo. They did nothing but just protest with signs and draw attention to these banks that were funding lab testing of animals. They prosecuted them as terrorists, and they went away for a long time. So this is serious stuff. And to me, it's a complete perversion of the law. And it is a violation of free speech in some of these cases. And as you suggest, in the case of Zoe, it's just the fact that she took these chickens to make a point. This is what that organization does. They're in the East Bay of San Francisco, and they do a lot of this stuff to bring awareness more than to really disrupt a commercial enterprise that's not going to miss 4 chickens.
Yeah. And I think, I've mentioned a couple of times she took 4 chickens. Of course, they're not concerned about the loss of the chickens. They're concerned that the reason she did it was to call attention to what they are doing there, to get the camera pointed to the Petaluma farm and to so that people, I'm sorry, not the Petaluma.
It's Sonoma, I think, up there.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah.
They're also wonderful. And
Kim lives in Petaluma, and it's a big, I think it's a big egg producing area, Petaluma, isn't it, Kim? So there are a lot of chickens up that way.
The point is what they really didn't want is the cameras pointed in their direction. because that's what she's trying to do, is to shine a light on what is going on there. And the less people know, the better for these companies. And sadly, they can get the legislators on board to back them with
Sure,
that,
it's
because there's no groups that give more money to the government than Big Ag and Big Pharma. Actually, Big Pharma's number one and Big Ag's number two. So
I saw the speaking of lab animals and everything. I saw that those monkeys that were being transported in that truck. Maybe you can tell the story better than I can. There was an accident, and the monkeys get out.
Yeah, a truck turned over that was transporting a whole group of monkeys to be used in research. There's an awful lot of secrecy. And I've linked, you mentioned Facebook. I've moved over to Substack. I still post a little bit on Facebook, and dawnwatch.substack.com is where I post my Substacks. And all of these stories that we're talking about today are covered in the Substack I sent out yesterday. And as I call it, felony chicken rescue. And then I've mentioned the monkey murders. A truck overturned. A bunch of the monkeys got out of their cages. Unfortunately, there's a lot of secrecy as to where these monkeys were headed from the Tulane Biomedical Research facility. The truck driver, unfortunately, said that they were carrying all sorts of diseases, which it's now been said that they were not. We just don't know what to think, honestly. Some were shot by the police yesterday. There were 3 left who were running around. A homeowner, a mother, shot one in her backyard, a monkey, and she mentioned that she shot him and he was just standing there, and then she shot again and he fell over in order to protect her children, because she'd been told that they were infected with various dangerous diseases. It so happens they likely weren't yet, but that's exactly, they were headed to labs to be infected. And it's a shocking and sad thing to say that the ones who were shot on the spot were probably the lucky ones, because what these other monkeys have ahead of them is just unbearable. It's life in cages, to be tortured, to have strange viruses put in them. It's unconscionable. And I was so glad to hear Gary Dietrich mention MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, before, because bless her, she has been so outspoken on this issue. She actually, there's a quote in the article I shared about the secrecy around this from her, just saying it's just sad on every level. And she tweeted saying that she doesn't know a single taxpayer who wants their tax money going to this sort of thing. So here's another issue that Marjorie Taylor Greene has been willing to take a strong stand on, and we're very, Dawn Watch is completely politically nonpartisan.
What happened on? Are all the monkeys accounted for now?
Yesterday there were 3 on the loose. One got shot by a woman trying to protect her children, so I believe there's 2 on the loose. Mm-hmm. One can only pray that a primate sanctuary can find them and retire them. The rest of them are on their way to the horror that they were already destined for. So.
Let me just quickly handle this from Crashed on the beach. He says, so you allow theft for businesses you disagree with? Theft is theft. Yeah, I was saying, prosecute the theft. And Karen was just saying, prosecute the theft. No problem. Prosecute it. Karen just said she's used to, people who are activists are used to being arrested and prosecuted for these things. But you don't prosecute it as terrorism.
Or as a felony. As a felony.
Exactly. Thank you.
She could go to jail for 4 years for stealing 4 chickens.
Right. So that's what we're talking about. So
yeah.
Karen,
and I appreciate, by the way, I just want to say how much I appreciate a comment like that, because other people might have misunderstood and might have been thinking the same thing. No, we're not saying that she should get away with stealing the chickens. And that's what the DA said, is these people can't think they're above the law. And it's like, no, they're not trying to be above the law. So he's quite happy to be prosecuted for stealing the chickens. But the reason
cattle or owls? I can only accommodate one today. Which one would you like to speak of?
I think owls. We had very, very bad news. It was looking for a while like it was going to be okay, but it's not. The barred owls are doing far better than the spotted owls in parts of rich forest, and the spotted owls are endangered. So some of the environmental groups, and it's not the first time that environmental groups have been out of step with animal rights groups, because while they're concerned with the species, we are concerned with the suffering of the individual. And so they're worried that the spotted owl is getting eaten alive, so to speak, but they're actually not being eaten, but they're losing territory, and they're losing out to the barred owl. So there's been a move to kill 500,000 barred owls because they're doing too well and the spotted owls are doing too poorly. And the Animal Wellness Action and some other groups have been fighting this hard. And once again, we have had some Republicans doing the most, who've spoken out most strongly against this. John Kennedy is the person who, in the article I refer to in my Substack, which maybe Tony can share.
Yeah, we'll have the link to the Substack
Great.
underneath this.
He's just said, "What are we doing? We're playing God. We've decided that the spotted owls have to win against the barred owls, and so we're going to kill 500,000 owls are set to be slaughtered." Now it turns out the Trump administration has come and is backing the slaughter now. They had not been before, but it's because the powerful logging lobby is behind this now. And I did a little bit of research. It's like, why are the loggers trying to kill off the barred owls to protect the spotted owls? And the answer to that is that because the spotted owls are endangered, when spotted owls are in trouble, loggers are not allowed to log in these old growth forest areas. So therefore, the loggers really want the spotted owls to do better. And so they're all on board for killing off the barred owls. So rather than letting nature take its course and us accepting, look, as things happen over in the course of evolution, sometimes some species do better than others. And right now, the barred owls are doing better than the spotted owls. And if we let nature take its course, that's what would happen is the barred owls would take over. But no, humans are getting involved and saying, let's kill off 500,000 of these beautiful animals that everybody loves because we don't like the fact that the spotted owls are endangered. So it's, and again, of course, nobody wants to lose a species, but for what I just think is really rich is humans saying that there's too many of a species that are ruining the environment. And so we should be killing off 500,000 of them. Humans? Who would ever say that? So
right. I mean, if by that metric and by that philosophy, humans might be, next on the griddle.
Yeah, more than 500,000 of us. Yeah. So, and I'm not, of course, suggesting we should be killing humans, but the idea that we're getting ready to kill 500,000 barred owls because they're doing better than the spotted owls is pretty crazy.
So her Substack, you can find a link to it under this video, and you can find it just by, a basic internet search.
DawnWatch.substack.com.
Yeah. And
Google it.
Right. Dawn Watch, all of her stuff will come up there if you just slam it on into Google. So appreciate you. Really good stuff, really important stuff. Wish we had even more time, but I'm glad that we visited those things that we visited, and people can read more and follow more with the Dawn Watch Substack, as we say. Thanks, Karen Dawn.
Thank you, Mark.
That's A Word About Animals.
Join the flock again next time for A Word About Animals on The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
I can't believe it. All our time is pretty well done. Is that really possible?
It is.
Man.
Good show, too.
I thought there were some good things in here, largely because of your planning. I've got to give Kim a little credit. She's really stepped up her game.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah.
I didn't know about the owls. Karen Dawn surprised me with that story.
She has a lot of good information. And that use of the terrorism charge, the felony terrorism. Yeah, you know, I mentioned this in the context of those protesters and the way you started to hear about Antifa and the left and the Democrats and they're all terrorists. And I said it at the time, you'll recall. I said, you know, this is scary, not just for the rhetoric being very pointed and just scary rhetoric when you call these people enemies of the people and enemy of the state, but that word is loaded, terrorism, in a legal way, and it can be turned just as it has been on animal activists, on activists of any kind. So careful. The government can do a lot, a lot to you or people you care about or respect who are involved in various efforts of one sort or another that you care about and respect. So
that poultry farm is right outside the city limits of Petaluma, so very close to where I am.
Yeah, it's a big poultry country up there in Petaluma, north.
We
of San
are the
Francisco.
egg basket of the world, as a matter of fact.
Trump is preparing to present the World Series trophy to the Dodgers, says Dirk Diggity. Oh, there you go. Well, that goes with the gig, you know. Kind of are allowed to do that. White-collar criminals get lesser prison sentences than those that are meted out to those animal activists. That's so true. Shouldn't destroying the East Wing without permission be considered an act of terrorism, says Mark Elliott.
You know, the crazy part of that story is that it happened in such a stealth way. Like, no, I don't know who saw that coming, that the East Wing, the whole entire building was just going to be torn down.
If you read about how it happened, I want to say it was in the New York Times, maybe. I forget who had it.
No one.
There was an article on how it happened, how he got angry, and he said, just tear the whole thing down. It was like, and he tear the effing thing. It was a really F-filled explosion that he had of temper.
Wow.
And he said, just tear it down. It was the same way that he pardoned the J6ers. Remember, he said, "No, just pardon them all, everybody." And so you end up with the East Wing destroyed on the verge of the rainy, wet, freezing cold winter that is about to descend on Washington.
So,
you know, not to mention, I mean, that's just the construction part of it. You know, you just torn down a whole wing, but the history that's lost is substantial, apparently. You know, and I heard from a couple of people who say, and when you consider that the East Wing was the purview of the First Lady, and with the history of First Ladies there, it plays into his general vibe, which is, I don't give an F about women. And,
well, the whole thing is a metaphor for what he's doing to America.
Sure.
You know, tearing down the part of the White House is like dismantling the country.
Sure, but and I should say the attack on women, you know, the rollback of Roe, the attack on mifepristone, women's reproductive freedoms. These are all things that are associated with kind of the general philosophy of the administration is kind of what was being suggested to me, and it makes a lot of sense. Nullifidian with a $5 super chat. Woo! It's a super sticker.
Big shout out.
Sticking your super. Appreciate it so much. Thank you. As a crowdfunded show, it all helps. If you want to be part of the show on a monthly basis, you can jump on Patreon or PayPal. There are links to both under all videos, and you can join us that way. The names of everyone who is a Patreon or PayPal supporter on the scroll after every episode, because you make every episode happen. Again, if you're just listening, go to themarkthompsonshow.com. Click Patreon or PayPal, and you can become part of the crew. Again, themarkthompsonshow.com. And there are links to both Patreon and PayPal. And again, under every video on YouTube. Trevor Starr in Hollywood says, Mark, if you want a Pulitzer Prize, you need to start roasting your own coffee.
That's right.
I think they give Pulitzers for that. But it's an idea. I don't know. Well, we will see. I want to... What can I do, Tony? Anything else I can do to delay? I hate to say goodbye.
We're wrapping it up.
I hate to say goodbye, but I feel like I'm going to have to.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. Shadow. on his birthday.
Happy birthday, Shadow Stevens. Tomorrow,
Wow.
David K. Johnston and Jefferson Graham to the show.
Oh, that's going to be a great show. David K. Johnston. Wow, is he going to have a lot to talk about? We'll look forward to that. And we look forward to you being here. Please share any conversation, any video across your Facebook or your social media, whatever kids use today, the TikTok. I don't know what your deal is. You can email it. Kids love the email. Whatever you feel. But we appreciate you supporting the show in every way that you do. Tomorrow, David K. Johnston and more. And until then, happy birthday, Shadow.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Tony, thank you. Kim, thank you.
Out of time. Bye-bye.
Out of time. Bye-bye.